The engine of the RV roared. It was gold.
Inside, Donald Trump adjusted his Make America Great Again hat. It was enormous. Beside him, J.D. Vance, in a matching Hawaiian shirt, fumbled with a map. It was upside down.
J.D., my man, are we winning yet?
Trump boomed, his voice echoing through the luxurious RV. It had everything: a golden toilet, a fridge stocked with Diet Coke, and enough hairspray to rival a small nation.
Winning, Mr. President? We haven't even left the driveway yet.
Nonsense! Trump waved a hand, dismissing the logistical reality. The American people, they love a parade. And this, my friend, is a parade on wheels.
With a lurch, the RV, emblazoned with a giant banner reading "Trump and Vance do America," pulled out of the gates of Mar-a-Lago. They were off. What could possibly go wrong?
The aroma of coffee and deep-fried everything wafted through the air, mingling with the scent of sizzling bacon and freshly baked pies. It was a sensory overload that could only be found in a classic American diner. Trump and Vance, famished from their journey, stumbled into a bustling truck stop. The place was alive with the chatter of truckers, the clinking of cutlery, and the hum of the coffee machine. It was a stark contrast to the quiet, opulent halls they were used to. It was a far cry from the gilded cages of Mar-a-Lago. The truck stop was a world away from the polished marble floors and crystal chandeliers, a place where the common man came to refuel both body and soul.
What is this place? Trump asked, his voice tinged with genuine curiosity and a hint of disdain. He had never seen anything quite like it.
Trump wrinkled his nose, eyeing the formica tables and red vinyl booths with suspicion. The decor was a far cry from the luxurious settings he was accustomed to, and he couldn't help but feel out of place.
I believe they call it a diner, Mr. President, Vance replied, trying to sound knowledgeable. He had read about such places, but had never actually set foot in one.
Vance whispered, consulting his guidebook, The Common Man's Eatery, a field guide. He had brought it along just in case they encountered any unfamiliar territory, and it seemed they had. A waitress with a name tag reading Mabel and a healthy dose of skepticism approached their table. She had seen all kinds in her years of serving, but these two were a new breed.
What'll it be, fellas? We got your burgers, your fries, your cholesterol specials. Mabel's voice was a mix of boredom and bemusement. She had no idea who these men were, nor did she care.
I'll have a well-done steak and make it snappy, Trump demanded, his tone imperious. He was used to getting what he wanted, and he saw no reason why this place should be any different.
Honey, this ain't Ruth's Chris, we got burgers, Mabel replied, her voice dripping with sarcasm. She had no patience for high-maintenance customers, especially ones who didn't understand the menu. You want fries with that? She added, holding a tray laden with greasy golden fries. It was the house specialty after all.
Trump, flustered, looked to Vance for guidance. He was out of his element, and it showed. The confident businessman was suddenly unsure of himself. Vance, equally out of his element, just shrugged. He had no more experience with diners than Trump did, and his guidebook offered little help in this situation. They were officially out of their depth. The truck stop was a microcosm of a world they didn't understand, a place where their usual rules didn't apply. It was a humbling experience, one that neither of them would soon forget. The RV sputtered down a dusty road, miles from civilization. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the barren landscape. Dust swirled around the tires, creating a hazy trail behind them. The road seemed endless, stretching out into the horizon with no sign of life in sight. Trump, bored, flipped through channels on the satellite TV. The static and flickering images did little to hold his attention. He sighed heavily, his patience wearing thin. The monotonous drone of the engine only added to his frustration. Vance, navigating, nervously chewed on a fingernail. The map in his hands was creased and worn, a testament to their long journey. He squinted at the tiny print, trying to make sense of their location. Every turn seemed to lead them further into the unknown.
J.D., where in the world are we? His voice was tinged with a mix of confusion and concern. The vast emptiness around them was unsettling, and the lack of landmarks made it difficult to get their bearings.
Trump grumbled, tossing a handful of peanut M&Ms into his mouth. The crunch of the candy was the only sound breaking the silence. He glanced out the window, his expression sour. This was not how he had envisioned their grand adventure.
I'm not entirely sure, Mr. President. I think we may have taken a wrong turn. Vance's voice wavered, betraying his uncertainty. The map offered no clues, and the GPS signal was non-existent in this remote area.
Outside, a landscape of endless cornfields stretched in every direction. The golden stalks swayed gently in the breeze, creating a mesmerizing pattern. It was a sea of green and gold, with no end in sight. A lone scarecrow, missing an arm, stood guard. Its tattered clothes flapped in the wind, and its hollow eyes seemed to follow their every move. It was a haunting reminder of the isolation they felt. It was the most action they'd seen in hours. The monotony of the journey was wearing on them, and the endless fields offered little in the way of distraction. They were trapped in a loop of sameness, with no escape in sight. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the cornfield, wiping sweat from his brow. The sight of another human being was a welcome relief. He moved with a slow, deliberate pace, as if he had all the time in the world. He wore overalls and a straw hat. His clothes were worn and faded, a testament to years of hard work under the sun. He had a weathered face, with deep lines etched by time and toil. He looked at the RV with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. His eyes narrowed as he took in the sight of the strange vehicle and its occupants. It was clear that visitors were a rare occurrence in these parts.
Well now, ain't seen one of these fancy contraptions round these parts before. You boys lost? His voice was a slow drawl, each word carefully measured. There was a hint of amusement in his tone, as if he found their predicament entertaining.
Trump, lowering his window an inch, surveyed the scene with disdain. He was not impressed by the rustic charm of the countryside. The farmer's casual demeanor only added to his irritation.
Lost? Never. We're on a tour, you see, meeting the real Americans. Vance's attempt at confidence was unconvincing. He forced a smile, hoping to mask his unease. The farmer's skeptical look suggested he wasn't buying it.
Real Americans, huh? Well, you found them. Welcome to Iowa. The farmer's words were both a greeting and a challenge. He tipped his hat, a gesture of both respect and curiosity. The journey had taken an unexpected turn, and the adventure was just beginning.
The sun beat down on Mount Rushmore, casting long shadows over the iconic faces of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. The heat was almost palpable, making the granite faces appear even more imposing under the relentless sun. Tourists swarmed, snapping pictures of the colossal presidential faces carved into the mountainside. Families posed for selfies, children pointed in awe, and history buffs marveled at the craftsmanship. The air was filled with the sounds of clicking cameras and excited chatter. Trump and Vance, however, seemed more interested in themselves. They stood apart from the crowd, preening and posing as if they were the main attraction. Their self-absorption was almost comical against the backdrop of such monumental history.
You know, J.D., they really should have made my face bigger. Much bigger. I mean, look at it. It's a good face, but it could be great.
Vance, squinting up at the monument, nodded in agreement. He seemed to be genuinely considering the idea, as if the addition of Trump's face to Mount Rushmore was a plausible suggestion.
Indeed, Mr. President, yours is the face that launched 1,000 ships. Or, in this case, 1,000 tweets. Imagine the retweets, the likes, the comments. It would be monumental in every sense of the word.
A park ranger, overhearing their conversation, cleared his throat. His stern expression suggested he had heard enough of their grandiose plans.
Excuse me, gentlemen, but could you please refrain from climbing on the sculptures? It's disrespectful and, frankly, quite dangerous. These monuments are national treasures, not playgrounds. It's disrespectful and, frankly, quite dangerous. The ranger pointed to a sign that clearly stated no climbing, emphasizing the importance of preserving the integrity of the monument.
Trump, momentarily distracted from his self-admiration, looked indignant. He was not used to being told what he could or could not do, especially in such a public setting.
Dangerous? Nonsense. I've climbed bigger things than this. Ask anyone. I'm very good at climbing. The best, some might say. He puffed out his chest, clearly proud of his supposed climbing prowess. Ask anyone. I'm very good at climbing. The best, some might say. He gave a thumbs up as if to seal his statement with a gesture of confidence. The best, some might say. His self-satisfied expression was almost too much to bear, as if he truly believed he was the greatest climber of all time.
As Vance tried to discreetly pull Trump away from the monument, a group of tourists recognized them. The crowd quickly gathered, eager to get a closer look at the former president and his companion. Cameras flashed, and a chorus of questions erupted. The tourists were relentless, bombarding Trump and Vance with inquiries about their visit and their thoughts on the monument.
Mr. President, what do you think of Teddy Roosevelt's environmental policies? One tourist shouted, hoping to get a soundbite for their social media.
Mr. Vance, how do you plan to address the concerns of rural America? Another asked, thrusting a microphone towards Vance, who looked slightly taken aback by the sudden attention.
Trump and Vance, overwhelmed, retreated to the safety of their RV. The questions had come too fast and too furious, leaving them no choice but to make a hasty exit. Their foray into American history, much like their understanding of it, had been brief and chaotic. They had come seeking admiration and validation, but had instead found themselves in a whirlwind of confusion and scrutiny. As they sat in the RV, Trump and Vance exchanged puzzled glances. The day had not gone as planned, and they were left to ponder the true meaning of the monument they had so casually dismissed. With a final look at Mount Rushmore, they started the engine and drove away, leaving behind a trail of bewildered tourists and a park ranger shaking his head in disbelief. The sun began to set over Mount Rushmore, casting a golden glow over the faces of the presidents. The monument stood as a testament to the enduring legacy of American history, a stark contrast to the fleeting visit of Trump and Vance. As the evening drew to a close, the remaining tourists continued to enjoy the monument, taking in its grandeur and significance. For them, the day had been a memorable one, filled with unexpected encounters and a deeper appreciation for the history etched into the mountainside. The park ranger, now closing the gates for the night, took one last look at the monument. He knew that despite the day's disruptions, Mount Rushmore would continue to stand tall, a symbol of the nation's enduring spirit and resilience. As stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Mount Rushmore remained a silent guardian of history, its stone faces gazing out over the land, a reminder of the past and a beacon for the future.